Before we get started, we're going to tackle chapter 10 and 11 today. But before we get started, I need to talk about you getting in your character histories. Now, let me explain one thing to you. If we look at the class requirements, there's a total of 500 points that can potentially be awarded for any one student. Of that 500 points, 100 points has to do with the library paper. The library paper, of course, is supposed to be about the problem that your client has. So if it's schizophrenia, you have to write a paper on schizophrenia. If it's depression, you have to write a paper on depression. So that's 100 points. You get 50 points for your fictional biography. So that's 150 points. And you get 10 points for each counseling session up to 10, and that is another 100 points. Now, if you take this 100 points and this 100 points and this 50 points, that's 250 points. So that's half of your grade comes from the counseling sessions. The rest of the points have to do with quizzes. Yeah, the rest of it has to do with quizzes and with discussions. Is that right? Yeah. Discussions. And actually it's more like 520 points, but we won't quibble over those extra 20 points. The point is that if you decide, oh golly, I don't want to do this fictional biography, it's too hard, I don't want to write the paper, I don't want to do the counseling sessions, I'll just skip it. Maybe he'll give me a C and I'll pass the class. The answer is nope, that's only half of your grade. That's only 50%. If you get 100 on everything else and even maybe a few more points, you're still not going to make the 350 points you need to pass the class. So in order to pass the class, you're going to have to do your fictional biography, write your paper, and you're going to have to you don't have to do the counseling sessions. I mean, you can miss this 100 points and still be okay. That'll still give you 400 points, which is a B. So if you score optimum number of points on everything else, you can still pass the class and not do the counseling. But you can't get an A. You'll score somewhere in the 400 range. 350 to 400 range, and you'll still pass the class, but you won't get an A. Anyway, I'm not trying to threaten anybody. I'm just telling you, please get them in. I've got 3 so far. If we looked at the discussion section, let me see. I can show you. We have 3 discussions, and we go down all the way to the bottom, and that's where I put them. So you need to email me your character history, and then I will put them up. I will attach them to the discussions. We have 3 so far. Billy Nez, Betty Ann Nichols, and Brenda Arthur are the 3 characters that we have so far. The more we have, the easier it is for everybody. So please get those in. It really breaks my heart when I have to give somebody a failing grade. I've had classes where I passed everybody, and that was a good class. And I've had classes where I didn't give passing grades to over half the people in the class, and that just about broke my heart. But you got to do what you got to do. That's what teaching's all about. You either get the point across or you don't, and if you don't, then the students suffer. So let's go ahead and get started. We're talking about developing a deeper understanding. This is the second time I've started this lecture, so we'll see how far I can get into it this time before I break down and can't do it anymore. In ordinary conversation, people often communicate in verbal shorthand, only discussing topics in a superficial way. We rarely ask for more information. We assume that people use words the same way that we do. It is important for practitioners to listen for gaps in information. Notice points and words that are not clear. Ask about how conclusions are reached. And a lot of times, and this is the essence of counseling. Actually, you're listening for people try to hide things, and that's important. It's important for people to hide things. It's a coping technique that works normally, but if these problems are causing them to drink or to try to cope in a inappropriate manner, then that's the reason why we're doing our counseling. Let me give you an example out of my own life. Once upon a time, my brother and I were collecting pop bottles along the side of the road. Um, People would drink their pop and they would throw the bottles out, and we would collect them and we'd get 2 cents a piece. Now, this is a long, long time ago, and 2 cents doesn't sound like very much, but if these dimes would add up, and you could save a lot of money. I mean, you could get some money. It's not like you had a lot of money. Anyway, so we're collecting pop bottles, and of course, if they had chips in them, they didn't, they wouldn't take them back. But this is when there were no pop cans. Everybody drank out of bottles. So if somebody drank a bottle of pop, then everybody drank out of a bottle. Nobody drank out of cans. It's long before soda cans. Anybody used aluminum cans. As a matter of fact, beer was coming in steel cans, tin cans they called them, but they were actually made out of steel. So here we are. We're walking along. We're picking up pop bottles, and we're talking back and forth. And the car full of kids from the town over from us drove past, and they were older than we were. I was about 14 years old, and my brother was 12. Um, and so when they came by, they asked us what we were doing, and we said we're collecting pop bottles. We had a cart that we were using. Each of us had a cart. He was on one side of the road, and I was on the other side of the road. So while we were talking to him, this guy grabbed a hold of my cart, the handle of my cart, and they started driving away. Well, the idea was that they were going to run really fast and then let go of the cart, and it was going to crash into the ditch and break all my bottles. And yeah, that was the idea. It was going to be funny, and everybody was going to laugh about it. We were carrying these walking sticks with us, and my brother, as soon as he saw that the kid was trying to steal my cart, he got up and he threw his stick like a spear, and he hit the kid right in the arm. It was a good shot. It was a good throw. And of course, I'm standing there just scared to death because I'm the bigger of the two of us, and I'm thinking that they're about to get out and beat me up. So I'm trying to talk them out of, being silly and being stupid, but my brother, he's all action, so he hits this kid in the arm, and they started to drive away, and that's when he hit him in the arm. And as soon as he yelled, the car just slammed on his brakes, and the guy reversed up, and they didn't get out of the car, but they were talking real threateningly. And of course, my brother had already lost his stick, so he came up and he grabbed my stick and he held it like a club. He was going to fight these kids, even though he was 2 years younger than me. And I was scared. I was scared that something was going to happen, and that I was going to get beat up. And we were standing on a bridge, as weird as that is, and I was afraid they were going to throw me into the creek. So, and the reality was, I was afraid. I was cowardly, and my brother was very, very brave. Was much braver than I was. So I've been afraid, you know, since this is in my past. I'm afraid that if I'm ever confronted with somebody hurting me, that I will be cowardly again. And this has been a fear that has followed me all through my life. And so if I get into a situation where this is a possibility, I always remember this incidents, and I try to not be cowardly. Anyway, okay, so this is something that it's some negative thing that happened to me in my past that I might try to hide from people. I may tell the story in a different way, and make me the hero, and my brother the smaller person, the cowardly person. I mean, I could change the story. And if you were listening to me tell the story, then you might notice that. You might notice that there was a gap. There were gaps in my narrative. And this is what we're looking for. We're looking for these types of gaps. And that's a true story, actually. And that's the second time I've told it because I told it when I recorded this the first time. And that's the first time I'd ever told anybody. But I erased that one and and I told the story very similarly. Okay, developing deeper understanding. I understand that you're feeling depressed. What is depression like for you? What does it feel like for you? Um, Everybody has their own way of manifesting depression, and this is important to find out how it manifests for your client. Do you feel like you want to end your life? Do you cry? Do you cut yourself? Lots of different ways of depression manifesting itself. And this is an important question. I hear that you're concerned about your children's behavior. Can you give me some examples? Yeah, they stick their tongues out all the time. It's just really strange. Locomotion, that's what this shirt says. I noticed that several people in the group are looking at the floor. Will one of you share what you are feeling? When behaviors, feelings, experiences, and the nature of the problem, challenge, or situation are clear, then changes can be more easily made. The meaning of words and body language can be explored. The basis of conclusions can be enlightening. Using questions to expand and clarify is important in families and groups. So it's important to get this information out, to figure out what's going on. You said your mom doesn't like you. Will you tell me what makes you think that? I don't think others care about finishing what we started. Will you tell me what is happening that makes you think that? I know my husband doesn't love me. Will you give me some examples of his behavior that leads you to feel that way? Holding hands with somebody else when he's with me. A client must be willing to explore more deeply. A client must feel comfortable and safe. It can be useful for the practitioner to ask about the client's hesitancy to share. But the practitioner should not push clients to share. The more you push, the less they're going to give you. Gaining further information may help in establishing a trusting relationship. Now, if you remember, if you've ever seen Good Will Hunting, it's an interesting movie because the first, I don't know, two or three counseling sessions that Matt Damon had with Robin Williams, they didn't say anything at all, and he just waited for Matt Damon to disclose some information. Silence may be useful in encouraging clients to explore further. Silence allows time for processing. Feelings may be experienced more deeply during silent periods. The more intense the feelings, the more silent time may be needed to experience them. Some people need more silent time to process their thoughts and feelings. It's important that this is here. And the reason it's here is because your textbook is written for white counselors primarily. And it is a point of fact that most Caucasians, most European Americans are very wary of silence. They don't like silence. They try to fill, and we've talked about this before, the fact that there are some people that don't like pregnant pauses and empty space and whatnot. But it's important to allow your client to speak. The more you speak, the less time your client has to speak themselves. So if you're a European American client or a counselor, one of the things that you have to do is know when to talk and know when not to talk. And that's one of the reasons why this slide, of course, I made up this slide, but that's one of the reasons that the book talks about these silence so much, allowing the client to speak. I had a colleague who wanted to go into counseling, because she gave good advice, and that this was her reason. She gave good advice. But the reality is that if you give somebody good advice, then they didn't come up with it themselves. So a good counselor allows the client to come up with the solutions for their problems. That's the best way to do it. You guide them into the right solutions. But if you have to give them the correct solutions, then a lot of times they won't accept it. Some people need quiet time to think. Silence should be used purposefully. Observe your client's reaction to silence. Some may feel rejected. Some may just feel uncomfortable. Each situation and each client needs to be thoughtfully considered. And of course, this is really important, is the fact that if you're dealing with someone who's indigenous, then silence is probably a good thing for them because it allows them to think. Like I said, European Americans aren't used to silence, and for that reason, they may feel a lot more uncomfortable in a silent situation. To develop deeper understanding of clients besides focusing on their challenges, you need to focus on their strengths, their resources, their positive factors. Many clients may want their challenges to be understood before they move on to their strengths. By focusing on the client's strengths, resources, and other positive factors, the practitioner can help clients feel hopeful, positive, and more able to cope. Highlighting what clients have already achieved shows that the practitioner understands and supports the efforts that they have made. Questions helpful in exploring strengths and positive factors. What do you do well? Of course, we're talking to Gandalf the Grey, the famous wizard from Middle-earth. What do you like about yourself? What does your family do that is fun? What are some good things about this organization? Tell me about friends who have helped you in the past. I don't think that's going to work. Somebody needs to take one of the boxes and somebody needs to take the other box. What have you done that you are proud of? Empowerment is achieved when clients know that they have the knowledge, skills, competencies, and resources to make decisions, solve problems, and achieve goals. As people use their strengths and resources to face and deal with problems and challenges, they gain confidence. Tell me about something you completed that seemed difficult, like climbing the side of a mountain. What skills have helped you solve previous challenges? How have you resolved previous challenges? After reflecting the client's strengths, the practitioner can invite the client to catalog other instances when they have actively participated in solving problems. This will enhance their confidence and sense of empowerment. Tell me about something you completed that seemed difficult. One of the most difficult things that I have done personally, is to be able to draw blood. Drawing blood isn't the easiest thing in the world. You've got a needle and you have to put that needle directly into the vein without going through the vein. If you go through the vein, you give the patient a really bad bruise. And that's not always easy. Now the trick is that if you're dealing with small veins, that you have to seat that needle, the end of the needle, in the vein so that you can draw the blood. If you don't seat it right in the middle, then you're not going to get a good blood flow. Now the reason I'm telling you this is because in order to do that, you can't shake. If you shake at all, then you'll mess up your stick. And I did this for, I don't know, about 30 or 40 years. And I was really good at it. And that was empowering. I always knew I was going to get the blood. I always knew if I could find a vein, I could draw blood from them, from the individual. No matter where it was. I could draw blood on the backs of people's hands. I could draw blood on their wrists. They could draw blood, of course, from their elbows. That's the basic place where you try to find a vein. So why am I talking about drawing blood? I'm talking about blood because that gave me the confidence that I could do something that other people couldn't do. Of the things that you have already done to resolve this problem, tell me about what has worked well, even for a brief period of time. What are some of the things you learned from working with past challenges? What skills helped you solve past challenges? How have you resolved previous challenges? Respect can be demonstrated by expressing understanding and validating the client's story, by showing interest in the client's thoughts and feelings, wants, needs, and goals, by creating and maintaining a collaborative environment, by asking about strengths, resources, potential, and capacities, by identifying strengths. We want to show the client that we respect them, that we feel on an equal level with that client. With all the trained professionals in this group, I am confident that we can find a way to resolve this. You've tried to solve this problem. Will you tell me about other things you have considered but haven't used yet? You seem quite angry about how your boss has been behaving. It must be a tough place to work. How do you think I might help you? When you resolve this problem, what are some things that will be different in your family? You've told me about the many ways you have worked on this challenge. Who else in the agency might be willing to work with us to resolve this problem? As I understand it, you have done a lot of thinking about the problems this organization is facing. You've talked to a number of people about your understanding of the problem and have decided to commit time and energy to resolving this problem. You have taken some important steps in problem solving. And that is the end of chapter 10. So let's go ahead and get into chapter 11. Assessing readiness and motivation. Starting with research by Prochaska in 1999, researchers have identified 5 stages of readiness and change using smoke cessation, weight reduction, and sobriety studies. Okay, so we're talking about smoking, losing weight, and staying sober. So the first, and of course, if you've ever tried to talk somebody into stopping drinking or stopping smoking or losing weight, you have, if you've ever had this conversation or had this conversation on a continual basis, you know that sometimes they fight you. Sometimes they'll think, man, maybe I should do this, and then eventually, of course, they get into yeah, I think I'm going to try to do this, and then they will be active in trying to lose weight or be sober or stop smoking, and then of course after they've stopped or they've lost their weight, then they have to maintain that for an extended length of time. So the pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, and maintenance are the 5 stages of readiness to change your life. In the pre-contemplation stage, the individual denies or lacks understanding of this problem behavior. Since the individual does not recognize their problem, they do not see the need for change. They may blame their problems on others. They may only agree to see a practitioner because someone else has suggested or required it. They're in the pre-contemplation stage. And of course, if you've ever dealt with people that were alcoholics or drug users, this is how you get most of your clients. They will come in the pre-contemplation stage, especially if the judge told them they had to do it. A lot of times they think they have no problem. They can control it. And same way with weight loss and smokers. They're in the pre-contemplation stage. A person who abuses substances but despite many arrests for driving under the influence does not consider themselves to have a problem that needs to be addressed. A gang that lives in a community with high levels of violence who believe they can continue perpetrating violence and not be personally affected. A husband who comes along to counseling because his wife thinks they have problems but doesn't see any problems himself. A wife who wants to end her marriage and comes to counseling to ease her guilt. Maybe she is going to counseling in order to tell herself, I did everything I could to save the marriage. I even went to counseling. A person who has had a serious health crisis and has been told to change their eating habits but states, I've always eaten this way and I am not going to change now. Practitioners should focus on raising clients' awareness of the urgency of the issues and the pain of or fear that is involved if they are in the pre-contemplation stage. Let me give you a quick example. I had a friend. I had a friend who smoked cigarettes, and he smoked a lot. And he started having health problems, and his doctor told him, well, if you don't stop smoking, then I'm not sure how long you can live. He was starting to have heart problems. And so he called me on the phone. He was in denial, and he asked me, well, did the doctor know what he's talking about? And I told him, yeah, the doctor knows what he's talking about, and if you don't stop smoking, you're going to be dead. You're going to be dead soon. You need to stop smoking. And he said, okay, I'll do it. But of course, he was in the pre-contemplation stage, and he really wasn't going to do it. He and his wife both smoked like chimneys. And if one of them smoked, the other one wasn't going to stop smoking. And I told her that. I told her that if you really want Danny to stop smoking, you're going to have to stop smoking yourself. Well, he sent me a picture. So he told me he's going to stop smoking. Anyway, he sent me a picture of him. He caught a big fish. And he sent me a picture of him with the fish. Of course, he had a cigarette dangling out of the corner of his mouth, and it was half gone, of course, and the ash was sitting there. And so you knew that he had smoked that cigarette and that he was still smoking from the way he had the cigarette in his mouth. This wasn't a one-time thing. And so he sends me the picture of the fish, and all I did was tell him, hey, look, I thought you'd stop smoking. You told me you were going to stop smoking. And he said, I can't do it. I don't want to do it. I'm not going to do it. And it was about 2 months later, he died of a heart attack. Yeah, he was in the pre-contemplation stage. I knew he was in the pre-contemplation stage. I couldn't convince him that he needed to do it. His wife couldn't convince him that he needed to do it. And he wasn't going to stop because he was smarter than the rest of us, and he had the same. I had the same heart attack he did. Mine didn't have anything to do with smoking, but I had the same heart attack he did, and I lived through mine because I didn't smoke, and he didn't. As a matter of fact, his heart attack wasn't quite as severe as mine was. But anyway, that's pre-contemplation. Counselor, if you continue drinking, what do you think your life will be like in 5 years? I have worked with people who have changed their eating habits and become healthier. A person in the pre-contemplation stage isn't interested in setting goals. The target must be to get the client to think about changing their lives and whether it will improve their lives. The second stage of readiness for change is contemplation. The individual in this stage weighs the pros and cons in making a change, but they are not quite ready to move ahead with making a change. Now, you might say that when I talked to Danny about not smoking, he was in the contemplation stage because the doctor had already told him he needed to stop smoking. But I recognize the fact that he wasn't. He wasn't even there yet. And the only way to do this was to keep after him and wait and keep giving him this information until it finally sunk in that he needed to stop. He would never made it to the contemplation stage. Practitioners can discuss the advantages and disadvantages of changing. It is helpful to identify barriers or challenges to making changes. The practitioner can propose small steps toward considering a change. Practitioner, as you think about giving up marijuana, what do you consider would be the advantages and disadvantages? Client, I am not ready to make any changes right now. There's a shock for it. Client, I have wondered if some of the problems on this team are because I am kind of dominating, but on the other hand, I think we get more accomplished because I am pushy. Client, my boss thinks I should get over my fear of making speeches, but I am just not sure if it is something I can do. I need getting sent to the principal's office. I keep getting sent to the principal's office for fighting, and then I can't play in the next football game. I don't like getting in trouble, but I have to stand up for myself. We have discussed forming a committee to address the problems in this organization, but I wonder if we would really accomplish anything. Practitioners can help clients identify barriers or challenges to making changes, and also strengths that will be helpful if they decide to change. Practitioners might ask if there are small steps that they might consider that may lead to a greater willingness to change in the near future. The third stage of readiness for change is preparation. The clients are ready to change and are looking for information. They may have already made some changes and are wanting to make more progress. They may have made some small steps and are ready to move forward making goals. Preparation, generally people need to be in this stage before a major change will be possible. And of course, we think as counselors, we're hoping that all of our clients are in the preparation stage. But the reality is that a lot of times they're not. They're just coming in to see us because somebody talked them into it, because the courts told them they had to come in, and they're not really ready to change. They're still in the pre-contemplation stage. Hopefully, they're in the contemplation stage because somebody has told them that they have to do it. But what we're hoping is they have come in the preparation stage. So all we have to do is tell them how to do it. Tell them this step, and this step, and then you'll be better. The fourth stage is the action stage. Clients are ready to take specific steps, and they may need little or no support from the practitioner. If the practitioner assumes that the clients are in this stage and yet they are still in a previous stage, the practitioner will likely feel frustrated. Clients may feel that they should be ready to take steps that they are not ready to take. Only about a third of clients come to practitioners in the action stage. An obese client, when faced with life-threatening health issues, joins Weight Watchers, learns to follow the program, and loses a significant amount of weight. A parent whose children have been removed from the home because the parent used harsh, abusive means of discipline says that they will learn other ways of discipline, willingly goes to a parenting class, and talks with the practitioner about ways to use what they have learned. This is the action stage. A child realizes that they will not be able to play on a team without earning passing grades and starts attending an after-school tutoring class in order to bring up their grades. A task group establishes a clear goal, identifies steps to achieve their goal, and talks with the practitioner about ways to work together most effectively. The maintenance stage, the pull to return to old behaviors is extremely strong. Clients need to develop ways to cope with temptations and to reward day-to-day successes. It is helpful to explore how past successes have been maintained and develop ways to maintain current changes. It must be remembered that this stage can be difficult. The old behavior was maintained because it was rewarding or comfortable. Clients need to learn to cope with old behaviors and temptations for the long haul. An organization develops more effective ways of problem solving and plans regular meetings so potential problems can be addressed before they become bigger issues. An individual learns to stop procrastinating on projects and makes plans to check in with someone who will provide honest feedback about whether the problem seems to be reappearing. A person who has had serious problems with alcohol abuse continues to be involved with AA. A person who has lost weight with the help of Weight Watchers and continues to attend meetings at least once a month. Relapse is common. In preparation for it needs to be a part of the process. Relapse is so common when change has occurred that some practitioners add it as a stage of change. When relapse occurs, clients may return to any of the previous stages. It is the job of the practitioner to determine which stage the client is in. Termination is the point at which there is no temptation to return to old behavior. And this is just reality. If somebody was a drinker, they may relapse. They may be at a party and somebody talks them into drinking. Someone shames them into drinking. They will be an alcoholic until they don't have these temptations anymore. They are still an alcoholic. They need to stay away from alcohol. It's the same way with marijuana. It's the same way with cigarettes. So instead of going out and if you're a smoker, don't go out with all the guys that are lighting up, sparking up, as they say. Don't do it. If you've had a problem losing weight and you finally lost that weight, and you go to a party and somebody offers you a big piece of cake and you take the largest one, of course, and you eat that cake, well, you've relapsed to some extent. Now you just need to get back on the wagon, and this is tough. People think if they ever fall off the wagon that they can't get back on, but the reality is, of course, that they can. Assessing stages of change, do you currently have a problem with? If yes, then the client is in contemplation, preparation, or action stage. If no, then the client is in the pre-contemplation stage. Do you intend to deal with the problem? If the answer is someday, then the client is in the contemplation stage. If the answer is in the next few weeks or a specific date, then they are in the preparation stage. If they say right now, then they are in the action stage. Do you intend to deal with the problem? If the answer to the question is no, then ask, what leads you to say that? If the answer is because it is not a problem, the client is in the pre-contemplation stage. If the client responds because I have already dealt with that problem, the client is in the maintenance stage. Another theory that can be used to assess readiness or the ability to make changes is social cognitive theory. This theory was developed by Albert Bandura and was originally called the social learning theory. And this is Albert Bandura when he got his master's degree from NYU in New York City. This theory considers the impact of the following factors as to the readiness for change: the environment of the individual, the personal situation that the individual is in, and their behavior. Personal factors include everything: physical makeup, brain structure, cognitive capacity, beliefs, self-concept, goals, and emotions. Personal factors deal with how you interact with others. Are you focused more inward or on yourself? Are you focused more outward on others? Look how long that guy's toes are. Gee whiz. Research has shown that behavior affects brain structures. Mathiak and Weber in 2006. Long-haul truck drivers have different brain structures than theoretical physicists. Behavior also affects physical makeup, as someone who is sedentary will look different from a marathoner. Someone who's sedentary will look different from a marathoner. When assessing a person's readiness or ability to make changes from the point of view of the social cognitive theory, several dimensions are considered. Does the environment support or encourage changed behavior? Does the person think that they have the capacity to make the change? Does the client believe that there is something to be gained from making the change rather than maintaining the current behavior? The practitioner must take into account all factors that influence the client, the family, the group, or organization. Do they feel compelled to solve the problem? The amount of discomfort created by the problem impacts the motivation. Environmental factors can influence motivation. The relationship of the client and practitioner influence motivation. Positive regard can increase motivation as it can the practitioner's genuineness, focus on the issues, and regular feedback. Problems in the relationship must be dealt with non-defensively by both parties, but especially the practitioner. It is important for the practitioner to regularly ask for feedback from the client to ensure that the progress that he or she perceives is actual and not illusional. Assessing motivation to change, discounting is a cognitive distortion that allows clients to deny or minimize existence of the problem. 4 levels of discounting: thinking there is no problem, thinking the problem is not significant but present, thinking that the problem does not have a solution, still blocks, and this will still block their motivation, thinking that the others have changed the problem but that he or she cannot do it. Could be in this person could be in the contemplation stage. An individual who thinks being 50 pounds overweight is not a problem. A family that believes disciplining children by hitting them with a belt isn't a problem. A task group that thinks that the fact that they haven't started working on an assignment that is due in a few days is not a problem. A business that thinks the fact that their product isn't completely safe is not a problem. A guy that is 50 pounds overweight accepts it as a problem, but not a serious one. Thinking that the problem is not significant, the abusive belt-hitting family might not worry about their discipline technique because 1, they never do it in public, 2, it doesn't happen that often, and 3, this must be the right way to discipline because their family has always done it this way going back 5 generations. Thinking the problem is not significant, the task group says that getting started late is a problem, but not a serious one because students work on things at the last minute all the time and they still get them done because they are so brilliant. The business admits that their product isn't completely safe, but since most people are not negatively affected by it, it isn't really important to change it. Thinking that the problem does not have a solution, being 50 pounds overweight is a serious problem, but everyone in the family is overweight and there is nothing that can be done about it. Disciplining children by hitting them with a belt may be considered a serious problem by some blue noses in the community, but it is the only effective way to make their children behave. We wanted to get a good grade on this project and knew that starting late may mean that won't be possible, but everyone was too busy. We just couldn't do it any other way. The business made a statement that selling a product that is unsafe is a risk, but it is a profitable product and they don't know any way to improve the safety. Thinking that others have changed the problem but they cannot do it. I am concerned about being overweight and I know that my friend lost weight recently, but losing weight isn't something I can do. We haven't been able to discipline our children except by hitting them, but our neighbors took a parenting course and learned several new ways to discipline their children. For this assignment, we weren't able to start working until right before the project was due, but some of the other groups in the class somehow found enough time to work together before the project was due, and they got a better grade than we did. We haven't found any way to be profitable except by continuing to sell an unsafe product, but there are other similar companies who have found alternative, safe, and profitable products. Discounting. The practitioner's job is to get the client to accept the problem exists, the problem is serious, the problem is solvable by the client. Most people are uncomfortable with the change, so getting past discounting may take time. Strengths, capacity, and resources have a significant effect on motivation. Clients who have many personal strengths, good social support, and adequate resources tend to be motivated. Resilience is an important strength. Level of stress and demands reduces or enhances motivation. Clients who have faced extensive stress recently, have high stress currently, have depleted their resources, and may have difficulty dealing with new stress. Experience teaches the client that they have the ability to affect change. Experience leads to self-efficacy, which leads to hope. Another element of hope is an internal locus of control. They believe that their behavior will produce the desired effects. People with an external locus of control believe that control is external and they have no power to influence it. Thus, anything that they do has no connection to the outcome. There is no way that they can fix themselves. Practitioners bring their previous experience, education, and beliefs about change to any meeting with clients. When change is not as quick or easy as clients want, practitioners provide support and encouragement that change is possible. Another element of hope is the placebo effect. Research on counseling and medicine consistently shows that when people believe that something will help them, it often is helpful. And that is the end of the chapter. And so I'll talk to you guys next week.